Hello, and welcome to this Brand Square Live webinar featuring Matthews Marketing Systems Marketing Communications Specialist, Lyndsey Farrow. Liz Churchill is unable to make the webinar today, so Lyndsey will be covering 5 ways packaging and codes benefit consumers and brands. My name is Stephanie Krieger, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we get started, I would like to cover some housekeeping items. So we encourage you to submit questions at any time during the presentation using the questions part of your GoToWebinar control panel. We will be monitoring the questions and will address them at the end of the presentation. We will also record this webinar for future viewing, and there will be a link sent out next week with the recording. Please join in the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag BrandSquare. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Lyndsey.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you to everyone who's joining this call today. As promised, I'm going to discuss a few ways that marketing and coding benefits consumers and brands. I thought I would start out quickly with, give me 1 second here, there we go. I wanted to start out with a simple definition of what marketing and coding is, and it's the method of printing information, such as variable data and barcodes, on different surfaces and materials. So this can be achieved through multiple print technologies, multiple high-resolution, permanent marking, like laser marking, continuous inkjet marking, drop-on-demand. There are many, many technologies that can accomplish marking and coding. Some common examples include expiration dates, barcodes, 2D codes, and industry certifications. This is a large industry expected to reach $7 billion by 2021, and there's new legislation being introduced, and with increased customer engagement and awareness, marketing and coding is an important industry to anyone dealing with product packaging or supply chain management. There are 3 top industries who utilize marketing and coding, as you can see on the screen. The first are consumer packaged goods, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, but these are the products that you touch on a daily basis. The food in your refrigerator, personal care items. These are items that you may not realize even have a marker code on them. Consumer packaged good companies require marketing and coding systems to be extremely high speed, and have the ability to change messages quickly without interrupting production. The next industry is the pharmaceutical industry. This is a highly counterfeited industry, and they need marketing and coding to ensure authentication while being unobtrusive to product packaging and design. They also require very high-speed marking and a very legible code, often needing 2D barcodes and data matrix codes that have a lot of code content in them for traceability purposes. The last market are industrial markets, and this is the lumber that built your house or the car tires that you have. Most of these are heavily manufacturing industries that require printers that work in harsh environments that may be wet, high humidity, dust-filled, or just dirtier environments in general. So these require robust, reliable printers for their marketing and coding purposes. Each industry faces challenges like changing packaging design, an increase in SKUs, shorter product shelf life, and increased production change, all of which marketing and coding can affect. So some of the benefits. The first benefit is that marketing and coding documents freshness and origin. And I think a lot of us probably take that for granted, but we all look at the expiration date on the jug of milk before we take a swig, or look to see when that fresh chicken that we purchased was packaged before throwing it on the grill. Best-by dates, expiration dates, and sell-by dates dictate which products we have in our refrigerators and pantries are the most fresh and safest to consume. Otherwise, they'll likely be thrown out. In the store, we check these codes to ensure that we're buying the freshest product from a location that we deem fit. One way we do this is through the country of origin labeling, which states where products were produced for meat, shellfish, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. And this is something that was driven by consumers as location of production is a very important purchasing factor. COOL also helps packers, processors, and retailers ensure the integrity of the food supply, but it can be a very controversial effort, as the World Trade Organization recently ruled that COOL can be an unfair barrier to international trade for certain types of meat. There's also recent legislation introduced to simplify expiration date and best by coding to two descriptive terms. The first being best if used by, which means that the product is not as fresh as it would be if you had used it by a certain date, but you can still use it. And expires on, which means you should not use that product after the stated date. And the reason these two terms were brought to light were because they'd like to reduce food waste. A lot of people throw food out even though it's still safe to consume. The next benefit is that marketing and coding provides authenticity and safety data to brands and consumers. This is especially important to the pharmaceutical industry as it is heavily pirated. Barcodes and serialization codes are used to identify individual lots, shipments, and packagings of drugs, cosmetics, and other products for the purpose of authentication and traceability. Serialization codes are essential for supply chain management and assurance. They provide the ability to track products from source to consumer and also recall products quickly in the event of a problem. And if you ask companies that have experienced recalls, for example, Chipotle, this is very important to get that information quickly. These marks and codes support compliance with local and federal regulations, such as varying tax codes, the disclosure requirements in different jurisdictions. These codes ensure that the supply chain is efficient and accountable, and they give consumers the confidence that the products they consume are genuine and safe. Marketing and coding requirements vary greatly per industry. As mentioned, the pharmaceutical industry is the most regulated, as each product must be labeled with a universal product identifier. This is a 10-digit code that identifies the vendor, product, package size, strength of medicine, dosage, and formula. And again, this is required by the FDA to ensure safety to consumers. Another benefit is that marketing and coding can be used to track consumer habits. Serialized codes can be printed directly onto products, flyers, and loyalty cards. This encourages consumers to engage with the brand, whether it be a rewards program, contest, or to claim a discount or a perk. The data gathered by companies from these loyalty programs is valuable and can be used to create marketing and promotional programs tailored to consumers. It tells where consumers are purchasing these products, which retailers are the most successful, and if promotions are meeting specific targets. One of the other benefits is that marketing and coding is all about trust. So each code tells a story about the product, where it's been, and how fresh it is. Codes are not just data that you see printed, but they're also a reassurance that this product is safe to consume. And this is important to consumers and for brands to convey. While there is currently no legislation requiring a best by date, most manufacturers choose to include it because they know consumers respond to that information, want to know that information, and because it implies a level of safety. If the code isn't present and trustworthy, shoppers won't just abandon the purchase, they may abandon the brand. It takes one bad experience with a poorly coded product for consumers to reevaluate that purchase in the future. Conversely, codes that are legible and reliable benefit everyone who touches the brand, from supply chain managers to marketers to retailers, and ultimately the shoppers who determine brand success. So why do manufacturers think marketing and coding is a pain? Mostly because it can be costly and confusing to manage large amounts of data and often results in code errors. So here are the three top issues that they face. 1, print quality. Again, clear, crisp marketing and coding supports consumer trust in the brand. With so many printing technologies available, it's easier now than ever to achieve a legible code. Packaging can also be designed to optimize the marketing requirements. For example, discrete space can be put on a bag of chips, or barcodes, expiration dates, block codes, and tax codes, and the design of the label and the package can incorporate this easily today. Another challenge is data management. This can be overwhelming, especially for CPG companies, as they continue to diversify SKUs, manufacture in multiple locations, and deal with ever-changing regulations. To add to the complexity, managing multiple printing technologies over multiple printing lines makes coding errors very likely. However, utilizing a print controller that can integrate with ERP and SAP systems to pull the most up-to-date variable data can eliminate issues with data management and print accurate codes automatically. This is very valuable to companies as they want to get products to shelves very quickly. The last challenge is cost control. Printing, marking, and coding can affect production costs directly. On secondary packaging, such as shipping cartons, applying an adhesive label with variable shipping data racks up costs, including consumables like print ribbons and the label themselves. It also increased waste from label backings or overruns, and increased production downtime due to label jams. And also you have to house those labels somewhere, or the pre-printed cartons that you're using with that information on it. By printing variable data directly onto the shipping carton or primary package, CPGs gain flexibility while saving costs. So overall, marking and coding can truly benefit the brand and the consumer by providing traceability, reducing production costs, bringing products to retail shelves faster, and ensuring safety and freshness, which in the end translates to consumer confidence in the brand and in the product. So I'd like to open it up for questions now. I have Mike Orchett, our National Sales Manager of CPG, joining me for this presentation.
Great, thank you, Lyndsey. And now we'll open it up for questions. Please submit your questions into the control panel now.
All right. So I have a question here. It is, what is a typical marking and coding application? One thing that I've learned working here is that there is no typical marking and coding application. We've been asked to mark a variety of things, some highly unusual, such as live pigs, but we've also been, a more typical mark for us would be on a primary package an expiration date barcode, batch or lot code. And we also have been very successful in replacing secondary shipping carton labels. So by directly printing those, we'd be replacing those. The next question is, how will the new FDA nutrition label updates affect marking and coding on food and beverage products? So I'd like Mike, if you could.
I can address that. So if we think of the marketing and coding industry that Lyndsey went through, when we get to the primary package, most of the primary package for CPG customers is a very simple mark. It is nothing more than a serialization of the products, maybe a best if used by. We have some clients that have taken their secondary packaging, which traditionally is a shipper, which requires that type of serialization as well. Some of the shippers now have become point of sale, where you will have to have some type of print as far as nutritional information on it. For some of our clients that are doing that, obviously anything that the FDA puts forward as far as a regulation for nutritionals and nut text panels on it, we have to comply with. So as again, the brand side of the business is seeing an uptick in business because of new graphics. We would anticipate new logoing or new marking that we'll have to do for some of our clientele, not all of them, because even on the secondary packaging, a lot of it is still a point of origin where it's shipping from a facility that's actually manufacturing the product, a lot code, time and date stamp. So they know from that shipper package, it's got all the data that's required wherever the package is being delivered.
All right. Our next question is, can you discuss the new digital watermarking codes and how you see them impacting the market?
I think, and this is Mike Orchid again, I think the question derives around Digimarc, which again, very interesting. We've actually engaged with the Minneapolis facility in regards to Digimarc to some extent to see if our print heads could duplicate that on a corrugated box. Just how Digimarc should change the way the consumer buys a package at retail. We believe eventually something will come about with a Digimarc type product for secondary packaging, for scanning, making it easier for distribution centers. We haven't tried it. I've got an initiative working with Minneapolis to take a look at that type of application. We'd like to be the first at the market to conquer it. We just have to understand it better to see if we can actually get it, the data into one of our print heads.
Right. The next question is, could the variable coding be a graphic image, or is it only text? And I can take this one. Marking and coding historically has been text, but we have advanced technologies now that can print high-resolution graphics directly onto corrugated cases, so it doesn't have to only be text.
I'll add to what Lyndsey started with a project that's in process right at the moment. From the graphics side of the business, we've managed the prepress and the graphics and the brand management for Diageo for a number of years. One of the things that is becoming more and more popular in the industry for the secondary package is to pull information directly from SAP for all the data, or the data that would reside on a package. General Mills has moved this way, so instead of them going to a traditional house like a Matthews for corrugated plates and prepress, all their SAP data actually will populate a print card with the graphics in place. The graphics then is like one bit tip, so it's positioned, and they'll generate their own proofs based on the SAP data. We're doing the exact same thing right now. We're in the process of doing that with Diageo. So we're pulling from different resources. So they have country and origin icons for whenever they ship overseas. So we'll take an SAP dump that'll go into our equipment where we'll generate actually a bitmap proof that they'll launch into their asset management system for proof approval. But at the same time, we have to go out and reach an icon. And any icon, if we have it in the correct format, graphics format, can be associated to data, or it can be in a data lookup table. And we can actually pull and position them. You basically build a die that says, you know, the country of origin always fits in this certain spot on the box.
All right. I don't see any other questions. I'll give it another minute here to see if anybody has any to submit. We have another one. Are counterfeited products really a problem? If you ask the pharmaceutical industry, I'm sure they would say yes. Actually, the U.S. government has recently released a report saying that 7 to 8% of all global products are counterfeit, which results in an estimated $512 billion loss of sales. So I would say that that's a problem. Another question, how do U.S. marketing and coding regulations different from Europe or Asia? Mike, would you like to take that one?
That's a great question. So for those of you who don't know me on the phone, I spent 28 years on prepress and graphics. I've been on the marketing side for a little over a year and a half. It's just like, you know, North America with the FDA has different legislation than anything going into Canada, where if you go into Montreal, you have to be bilingual. From what we see over in Australia, they have different needs, just like they do in Europe and Asia Pacific. So the way Matthews has a global presence. We have distributors overseas that actually manage a lot of the European work. So we've seen some differences. A lot of the U.S.-based manufacturers that are shipping over there, there's where we kind of pick up on the information. So, sorry, it's not a great answer. Again, if there's something specific, I can dig into that information and email it out if we wanted to do a comparison of a specific U.S. customer and how they're managing marking and serialization overseas.
All right. Are there any other questions?
I think that's it, Lyndsey. Thank you, Lyndsey and Mike, and thank you all for joining us. As a reminder, you'll be receiving an email with a link to the video recording. And be sure to visit brandsquares.com to register for next month's webinar with presenter Mark Levine from Shock, talking about building quality-focused partnerships with your supply chain. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.